Now let's talk about the third framework, and then we'll take a break. And I call this one vision. This is the one that sets the relationship building process in motion with your clients. So we know how they feel. We know what their experiences are. That's all fine and dandy. How do we turn that into a growth engine? And now we start to talk about what we call the client value journey. This is yet another rule. You're getting a lot of rules today. All business is personal. Every bit of it. Tony is a mortgage lender. Business personal for you?
Oh, definitely.
100%. Because when you lend, what are you essentially lending on? Faith. You have a belief, and you're charging interest for it, or your bank is, the bank you work with, not you personally. But people are charging interest for faith. It's a fair exchange of value at that point. I believe in you, and this is what my belief is going to cost. But it's still personal. And think about it for a second. If you know everything there is to know about every property in this part of Cobb County and extending over into Paulding County, you know every property in detail, everything there is. But you walk up and tell your clients that they're morons if they don't hire you, how likely are they to hire you? They're not going to hire you. That is why somebody who peaked when he was 9 was able to get the wife that I got. It is my personality. I am very charming when I want to be. These jowls, this gut, just doesn't work like it used to. But I'm funny. That's why musicians get all the girls, because they got this personality of a poet. That's really, I have a lot of bad jokes in my presentation. But at the end of the day, what we do is personal, very personal. And it makes total sense. Because how many times do we look at somebody and say, this is the biggest financial decision of your life, don't rush into it. I want you to know I'm here for you through it. But we oftentimes treat these engagements as transactional. I'm going to go back to your experience. What did you do? You sent them the agreement to just look it over. Very transactional action. And what did it do? Made him, scared him. Had to change his shorts after that. Which I do, I mean, look, I do too. I look at all these documents. When I was going through my pre-licensing course, even though I knew I was never going to really do much in the way of transactions, I'm still like, It's just like, I mean, it's just too much. The first brokerage I joined, purely transactional in the onboarding process. No conversation, no call, no talks, nothing. It was hard for me to understand. Like, I know I said what I wanted to do here. I know I explained my business goals and all of that, but still wanted to know what's going on so I could be helpful. Nothing. Went to a new brokerage, very personalized walkthrough process. Me and the managing broker of that particular office sat down for 2 hours. And we went through everything. I still don't know everything, but I feel far more comfortable about it. Why? Because she sat down with me. She understood that she was talking to a person, an individual, and she answered those questions. So don't treat these processes as transactional. Treat them as dating, personal. This is a book that this model is really built off of. And it's called Human Intimacy. It's written by a zoologist by the name of Desmond Morris. And he basically observed the way humans interacted with one another and identified 12 stages of human intimacy that people go through, from a glance across the room to doing what people do. And basically what he observed in this process is that strong foundational relationships have those stages. You can't skip those stages, and everybody has to move on at the same time through those stages. So if somebody's ready to skip ahead, the other person isn't, what happens? The relationship falls apart. Think about it. How many guys out there rush to say, I love you, baby? And the girl's like, you're a creep. Why? Because that's not what human intimacy is about. So when I say I have this wonderful personality that my wife just loves, all I'm basically saying is that we both went through the stages, and I'm going to show you what those stages are here in a second, that both of us were comfortable going through. Don't skip your stages. Go through a process. Working with your clients is an intimate, business-oriented, personal process. Or in other words, don't propose marriage on the first date. You walk into a networking event, you hand your business card and say, I'd love to help you buy and sell a property. You're a creep. Just like every other realtor is in the room that's doing the same thing. Don't pitch your services either. You haven't developed that relationship with that person yet to be able to pitch your services. And I know I know y'all know what I'm saying here, but how many people look at real estate is that scene from Glengarry Glen Ross? Always be closing. Aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. I just don't buy it. Business intimacy should be very personal, very simple, and you should follow the stages, much like building a relationship with another person. And these are the 8 stages of what we call the client value journey. It begins with awareness, and that's building up your understanding or your acknowledgement that somebody exists. It's your glance across the room. And it ends with promotion. That's when people are going out and building you a referral network. Now, when we talk about that client value journey, we're going to talk about each of the stages, but always start in the middle. So when we go back to this map, the excitement stage is where you deliver a moment of wonder and understanding about what you do. That is the center of your focus. Working with clients you already have, working with people that you want to be your clients. This is where people begin to know what you do is not what other people do. What you do stands apart, stands alone, stands unique in an industry where there are millions of other people that do what you do. You focus on this, the rest kind of falls into place, right? A conversion is a small commitment of time, a meeting, a phone call, a Zoom call. And subscribe is an ethical bribe to indicate a need for solutions. By bribe, I mean some sort of free little giveaway. Hey, here's a checklist. If you're thinking about selling your home, here's a little checklist. I just need your email to send it to you. Fantastic. They indicate that they're probably close to selling, or at least getting ready to think about that process. And they've told you that they're willing to get what you offer of value, a checklist to prepare, in exchange for their contact information. So in other words, your subscription stage is your lead generation. It's something that everybody gets wrong. Everybody goes out there and says, well, I want to buy a list of leads from Zillow or all these other places. Well, Zillow's done this. Zillow's given the ethical bribe, and now they're selling that bribe to everybody else around and making a ridiculous amount of money off of it. Whereas you could do it yourself. On your website, have a little form that says, download my checklist right now. Would love to hear from you. Love to help you. Then you can set up a meeting with them, and you can deliver that moment of wonder and understanding. Let's go back to your contract. You sent the listing agreement. Did he have a lot of wonder and understanding about the value you provide? When did he see the value of what you provide?
I'm not sure he has yet.
Not sure he has yet.
Still working on it.
Well, that's a good statement, right? So let's reverse engineer that for a moment. You have to wow him with the fact that this is not a scary process. I'm going to show you have nothing to be scared of. I'm going to show you you have total control. I'm going to show you you have everything that you need right now. Can we spend some time talking about that? Yeah, fine, fantastic. I only need about 20 minutes. You take 20 minutes to sit down and go through it with him. You deliver how it is that he has no fear. Boom. Done. Then you can move on to the next stage, which is to get him to sign the agreement, and you can go through those details, right? But before that, on the front end, you need to build your audience. Your engagement stage is your content. This is your Facebook posts and your TikToks and your email marketing and your paid advertising, whatever it might be. Blog content, however it is that you do it, that's what you're doing right there. Just producing valuable content for your audience. And your awareness is essentially your advertising. This is where you're going out, talking to people at networking events, sending out mailers, maybe doing Facebook ads, whatever it might be. You're getting your name out there. But you'll notice it's all focused on the center of that journey is excitement. So you're only building awareness to your people. You're only building awareness among your ideal clients. So you're not just going out there and working with everybody that's easy. You're finding particular people that are very easy to work with. Because everybody's going to be easy for different reasons. When you find those easy people that you want to work with, that you match up with, now you just build awareness amongst them. Then you give them stuff that they can read about you, learn from you. Then you give them the bribe. And I say bribe, but I mean bribe in the sense that it's not anything of monetary value. Just indicates that they have a need to solve a problem, and you're giving that to them in exchange for contact information. Then you spend time with them, then you deliver the wow moment. And then you can start to deliver more value. The Ascension is where you start to provide those core services. The buyer-broker agreement or the listing agreement. Connecting them with a lender that helps them get pre-qualified and gets the best interest rate possible. All of these additional value Ascension services. I mean, I got an email yesterday, it was an unsolicited email, where somebody who's a realtor has a service company that does inspections or something like that. I've noticed I've gotten a lot of crappy emails since I became a realtor. I don't know if you're selling my data out there or something. But the reality is I noticed that he's essentially trying to ascend the value of his services by adding more services to what he does. And that's essentially what you're talking about here. The core offer, which is a listing agreement or a buyer-broker agreement, and then additional services that you can use to monetize the value of what you do. Advocacy is where you get positive reviews and testimonials. Hey, glad you had a wonderful transaction. Can you leave a review on my Google profile for the world to see? If you hated me, tell the world about it. If you loved me, which I hope you love me, tell the world about it. And in reality, if you focused on delivering value and building a relationship and not proposing marriage on the first date, more often than not, people will ask to leave reviews for you. And more often than not, they're 5-star reviews. And then promotion is, and this is where you can start to build methods and programs for your clients to refer business to you. Which I know in the real estate industry is a little tough because it's not like we can compensate people for referrals. But you can, remember, connect with people's feelings and still build that referral network. And when we go through understanding how it is that we build what we build, we oftentimes use this wheel to do so. And this wheel essentially just asks you to kind of scale from 1 to 10 where you fall in that customer value journey. How good are you at building awareness among your ideal clients? How good are you at engaging them with your content? How good are you at getting them to subscribe to your information? So on and so forth. Ideally, what you want is a perfect wheel. Surprise, surprise, no company, no realtor is ever going to be perfect, but it gives you a way to just kind of evaluate where you are now. This is kind of like your current state. It gives you an idea to be able to say, all right, for my ideal client, I need to build a relationship that focuses on this. And what you'll often find is that when you get somebody in the door, you do a really good job, but it's getting people in the door that are very weak, that you're weak at. Why? Because you're not understanding their feels, using the knowing framework. You don't understand their experiences, using the ideal client profile. But once you do, you start to see those inch up. And I cannot tell you the importance of focusing on the process, right? Everybody thinks that there's a immediate way to go out there and find clients. But there are immediate ways, but they still use these frameworks. They focus on solving problems. They focus on delivering the moments of excitement. I'm here to tell you that if you understand your people, if you understand their feeling, the feeling relationships that you can build with them, you can optimize this journey in very, very powerful ways that make you stand out amongst people. In ways that are just immeasurably amazing for your bottom line. So looking at this, I'm just going to ask each of you to do a self-evaluation right now. Just put your hands up. How many of you would put yourself on the awareness stage, getting people to know who you are between 1 and 3? Okay? How about between 4 and 7? Fair enough. And then probably no, I'm probably a 6, right? It's a tough thing. Why? Because you're a realtor and there's a lot of us out there. Let me ask you a question as an association manager. You kind of have built-in industry recognition because the realtors are really, it's the only trade organization for real estate. But how many people really know you exist and can help them? There you go. And again, that's not a bad thing. It just means that you got to get glances across the room. You got to be willing to go into the bar and buy people drinks. You got to be willing to make yourself known. Going back to the client value journey, I told you about my wife. And I'm going to relate my experience to this. I met my wife on Match.com. That's because for 5 years before that, I was in a long country album of heartache and heartbreak that just never seemed to work. Moved down to Georgia, it still didn't work. In fact, it got worse when we moved down here from Chicago. But I stuck it out because, feelings. And before that, had a relationship that didn't work. Before that, had a relationship that didn't work. I met girls on soccer fields because I loved playing soccer. Used to be very in shape. This svelte demeanor you see now was not always the case. I met girls at dog parks because I had 2 cute little amazing dachshunds named Jorge and Lily, and they were the best magnet ever. Blind dates because my friends knew I had a great personality. Every way that you can think possible, I tried except for online dating. So I joined Match.com on Valentine's Day in 2014 and said, F it. If this doesn't work, single for forever. And I kind of had hit that point in my life where I was okay with that. I figured it was the last shot. Hadn't tried Match.com before. Let's give it a go. Literally 2 days afterwards, I got an email notification that said, you've been matched with Blairba12 or something like that. I still have the email saved in my email. That was my awareness for both of us because we both got matched. And then we started to look at each other's profiles and started to message each other in the app. I did my little Facebook stalking to know that she wasn't a creep, and I'm fairly positive she did the same. That was our engagement stage. We were learning. We were asking questions. We were trying to get more information. And then finally, I said, we can talk on here all you want, but hey, here's my phone number. Can I take you out to coffee? Yeah, here's my phone number. I'd love to meet you for coffee at this place. That was subscription. Why? Bribed her with a cup of coffee in exchange for phone numbers. Then we met for coffee. That was our conversion moment. There was no obligation. In fact, the funniest thing about that first coffee date was when we walked into the coffee shop, there was a car there that had 2 dachshunds on the car. And she was a little creeped out that I drove a car like that. And I was a little creeped out that she drove a car like that. Because one of the things in the engagement stage that we talked about was the fact that she was raised with dachshunds. And I had these 2 cute, adorable little puppies. We saw that car and we thought this person's kind of a weirdo about dachshunds. Funny little story. Either way, it leads into the excite moment. Because I can tell you the exact moment in that coffee date where I said, it's either going to work out with her or I'm never doing this again. And that's when we started talking about our families. We both came from blended families. We both have 5 siblings through the blended families. The only difference was I was near the oldest and she was near the youngest. But what was funny is we were both, I had an older stepsister. She has a younger stepbrother. So we even understood it from that dynamic of being the top and the bottom, the youngest and the oldest, and then all of a sudden the families blend and you're not in that position anymore. I mean, it was really kind of weird. Both of our fathers were a little nuts, right? Her dad is Cuban. My dad is from Wyoming, which is a foreign land to most people here in Georgia. They see Yellowstone and they think, oh my gosh, Wyoming must be beautiful. And I say, I grew up in Cheyenne, which is the exact opposite of everything that you see on that damn television show. Either way, that moment of excitement was delivered for both of us. Because in that coffee day, I said, look, how about can I take you out to dinner? Let's have a real date where we can go out and talk. And that's what we did. We went out on a real date. I actually got kind of dressed up. We did more dates, eventually introduced each other to our families. Then we bought a home. We got married, or we got engaged, obviously, and then got married. Then had our first daughter, then bought the home that we're currently in, a new build. It was awesome. We've also gone through loss together. I mean, our relationship has ascended. And it continues to, it matures. And that's what a relationship with somebody does. Even in business, the relationship matures, becomes more, I don't want to say it becomes more complex, but it becomes more dynamic. Still a very simple relationship. I mean, but I love my wife more today than I did yesterday. And tomorrow I'll love her more than I did today. It just never ends. When I told you that I would literally punch all of you in the face to protect my wife and girls, that's advocacy. Because I know my wife would do the same, and she's Cuban, which means it's far more sinister and cold-blooded. But she would do the same. And when we say promotion, she has a side hustle as a Disney travel planner. I refer her business. I'm a marketer. She refers me business. It literally fits within the model. Why? Because we went through the stages of relationship building. And there's nothing wrong with doing that with your clients too. Your clients do not have to sign with you on the first moment you meet them. In fact, if you're proposing that, you're likely not going to get them as a client. But if your clients come to you and say, oh, that's fantastic, you're a realtor, that's pretty cool, and you say, you know what, I love it because it gives me time to do what I do. You authentically represent yourself. You're leaning into the front stage of the customer value journey. You're inviting them to do the same. That flywheel runs through all of this as well. Because when you give a chance to build relationships, you can see the arrows that kind of flow back. The flywheel is built in here. You're constantly going to have to reinvest and revisit. Focus on the process of relationship building. Date your clients. Date being a metaphor, obviously. Build a relationship with them. We've already talked about what their feelings are, what feelings you have, how you authentically represent yourself. We've already talked about what experiences they have and how that shapes their decision making and how that influences the way they see you and the world around you. Now translated into a meaningful, purposeful, powerful relationship. And you start to make good money. Because I guarantee you this. People will argue over price when everything is the same. When you're not the same, when you're better than everything that everybody else sees, when you connect with your people in ways that nobody else is able to connect, there's really no limits to what it is that you can charge for what you do. There really isn't. But if you commoditize yourself, if you treat every relationship as the same, commodity prices, commodities you can negotiate. You become a pencil. And I know every one of you are more unique than that. You're not a writing utensil. You're a person with a story and a passion and a purpose and a vision. So all of that said, we're about halfway through. Let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break. Process and absorb all of that yelling that I've done about feelings. And we're going to come back and start to talk about how it is that you can turn this into an actual business operation.